Hey YouTube, how is it going this Thursday morning? Well, it's time for another TSNP/HUMBL video. The stock is starting to roll over a little bit, so I want to go into their chart and see if we can see anything that could be happening underneath the surface. Then after that, I have some other great charts to show you, and then I'm going to get to some of your questions as well. If you're new to my channel, I like to trade and invest in typically lower price stocks, so if that's something that interests you, please consider subscribing so you don't miss any future trading or investing ideas. But please remember, I am not a financial advisor, so do all of your own research before buying any of these stocks. All right, everybody, I am going to jump right into the charts. This is the current daily chart of HUMBL Incorporated, ticker symbol TSNPD. And if we zoom in a little bit, we can see that the price action for the last couple days has not been very compelling. It's starting to roll over, and that is not good. I figured this week it had a pretty good chance of jumping over these two moving averages right here and consolidating a little more before hopefully an eventual hook back up, but that does not look like what is happening right now at all. And if we go to the weekly chart real quick, we can see that it is holding below that 8-period exponential moving average, so that is another bearish sign for this stock. Now, I know a lot of you guys have long-term conviction on this stock. You're not worried about this short-term movement, but any of you guys that are trading this stock, it looks like the current trend is probably going to be a little bit lower, but it looks like it is coming into support, and you also have this blue line, this 50-period simple moving average, which usually is the strongest area of support of a stock that has been pulling back hard. That is just a little bit below where we are right now, and that is coinciding with this other area of support that I'm showing right here on the chart. Let me put a line on there so it's a little easier to see. That is a pretty strong area of support right there at about $2.85. And you can see the 50-period simple moving average is just below that, right around $2.75. So the $2.75 to $2.85 area looks like a pretty strong area for support. So even if you don't own this stock and you're looking for a decent swing trade, I think if it moves into that area, that could offer a potential short-term move up at least, if not a turnaround in this trend overall. And if you did want to play that on just a trade, you could put your stop loss probably around, $2.59 or so. And that would be a pretty low risk, high probability, high reward trade for TSNP. Let me take this off the chart real quick. And let's take a closer look at what's happening underneath the surface just these last several days, see if we can get a view of what could be coming next. Now, bringing up the 15-minute chart, start backing it out, we can see that it is threatening this support line pretty strongly at the moment, and it's actually kind of disappointing if you've been watching this support line that it didn't get more of a bounce off of it before. It didn't bounce very high at all, and it's gotten very weak, and it's starting to roll over and threaten that support line again. So I would say that it's probably going to break that support line. Now, it remains to be seen if it's going to hold that 50-period simple moving average. I would guess that it probably is, and that should be a nice area for a bounce. But if it does bust through that 50-period simple moving average on strong volume, the stock could really be in trouble and really could continue a fade lower. Now, if you are a long-term shareholder, that of course shouldn't bother you at all. That should be good news. Let's go back to the daily chart real quick, because you always want to add at lower prices. If this stock ends up taking out this old high just above $7.50 and say screams up to 10 or higher, then obviously you want to be adding here at these support levels. But of course, when they pull back to these support levels, these strong moving averages like the 50-period simple moving average, it's a little scary when they pull back there to start throwing new money at it, because it seems to be that it's probably going to continue lower. But then if you look at the charts in hindsight, you see that those areas were actually great places to add. All right, guys, I want to take a quick look at the market averages really quick, and then I want to get into some other nice-looking charts that I think have a really good chance of moving higher if you guys are looking for some more trading opportunities. Well, the first one I want to show you is the QQQ, which of course is the ETF for the NASDAQ. And if we zoom in a little bit, we can see we are rapidly approaching this 50-period simple moving average. Now, if the other indices weren't so strong, I would probably be unloading some positions right now or as soon as it got closer, a little bit closer to that 50-period simple moving average, because normally when stocks move into that average, they at least have a little bit of a rollover. I would expect once the Qs hit the 50-period simple moving average for the Nasdaq to roll over a little bit and maybe find a little bit of support at that white line, the 8-period exponential moving average. But of course, the market does not make that easy because the other two are just busting out right now. And let's jump over and take a look at those real quick. Let's take a look at the Spider first, which is the S&P 500 ETF. It is breaking through this megaphone pattern that I draw. I'm just going to take these things off there. They've been on there for a little bit. And since it's already broke through there, there's no need to have those on there again. But the S&P 500 is busting out to a new all-time high. So that is telling me that I probably don't want to be a seller of a bunch of stocks. If the S&P 500 is breaking out and the Dow Jones Industrial Average is breaking out, chances are the Nasdaq is probably going to find a little bit more follow through to the upside. Let's take a quick look at the diamonds. Diamonds, of course, is the Dow Jones Industrial Average ETF, and you can see this thing is just exploding higher. So the Dow Jones has taken the leadership role in the market right now, so that rotation is still in full effect. So if you have some Dow Jones Industrial stocks, you definitely don't want to be unloading on them, unloading those stocks just yet, because they are the strongest ones out there. All right, guys, so now the market is starting to show some pretty decent strength, so I'll probably start to be looking to take some more of these trades. I didn't want to take any until the market looked like it was going to be busting out to a new high, and that looks like what it is doing right now. So I want to show you some of these other nice-looking charts I see that potentially could be heading higher if you're looking for some trading opportunities. The first one I want to talk about is Rave Restaurant Group, ticker symbol RAVE. Talked about this one on the channel before. This one's been kind of a pain in the butt for me. I think I've traded this twice and lost money on it both times. They were just small losses. It kind of chopped me around a little bit. But it is, nonetheless, it is starting to make another nice looking pattern. Found some support at the 50-period simple moving average. Jumped back above all of these moving averages and is now riding that 8-period exponential moving average higher. This is not a super heavily traded stock. You can see right now it is traded less than 250,000 shares, so this thing can really get going when it wants to because it is a lower float stock, so keep that in mind. Let's take a look at the 15-minute chart real quick, take a little closer look at what is going on. You can see this pullback that it had in the last several days, made that false breakdown and then jumped right back up, and it's starting to ride those moving averages up. So this is the area that I would put on the chart. If it busts through this resistance area and holds, it could be off to the races for Rave, so I'm keeping a sharp eye on RAVE. Let's take a look at, let me get that out of here real quick, and let's take a look at the next one. Next one I want to show you is NNA. This is another oil and gas stock. These have been showing up on my bullish scans like crazy. I talked about this one at least a couple of videos ago. I wanted to wait for it to bust above that 200-period simple moving average, and it looks like it's on the verge of doing that right now. If it can bust above this 200-period simple moving average, this yellow line, and hold it and maybe consolidate a little bit, and then get above this resistance area right up here, right around $2 or $4.64, I think it has a very strong chance of moving higher. And this one is also a very low float stock, so make sure you keep that in mind. This one has only traded 78,000 shares on the day. So those low float stocks, they're a double-edged sword. They can go up really fast and they can go down really fast. So always keep that in mind when you're trading these stocks that trade less than 500,000 shares in a day. Because if that's your average daily volume, once some volume pours into these stocks, they can really move it one way or the other. Next one I want to show you is BPE or BPT. BPT is another oil and gas stock, and this one is starting to break out from that bullish flag formation that it's making right now. And it looks like it could be ready to do its next move up because it's breaking through that trend line. And I think a break above 5.25 to a new relative high is going to be coming very soon on BPT. I'd like to buy it on a little bit more of a pullback because some of these stocks that have been trying to bust out, they've been chopping around a little bit. I mean, I attribute a lot of that to the market action because we've had so much chop in the major market indices that it has an effect on every stock in the market. But BPT is definitely one that I'm keeping a sharp eye on. Next one I want to show you is Real Networks, RNWK. And RNWK is making a very similar pattern as well. It's making a pretty decent looking bullish flag formation. It's starting to break out of it right now. So RNWK is definitely one that I am keeping an eye on, especially if the NASDAQ busts through that 50-period simple moving average and continues higher, which I think it will do eventually. Might get a little bit of a rollover, but I would expect it to eventually break through that in the next probably couple of days, maybe a week or so at the longest. But I remember Real Networks back when I first started trading. Let's go down memory lane real quick. Back when I started trading in the very late 90s, this was one of the high flyers. This is the weekly chart. Let me back it out a little bit so it's faster. But back in the late 90s, I mean, this stock went from, under $20 a share to over $350 a share. And we actually have a split right here of 2-to-1, so it was actually higher than that, unless we had a reverse split later. I think it might have, but either way, it was a huge moving stock back in the day. And this is what could happen at the end of a bubble, so you got to be careful with these stocks that have sky-high PE ratios, because if you get a long enduring bear market, this is what I think is going to happen to a lot of these stocks that just have those sky-high PE ratios. Valuations are going to matter sooner or later. They don't seem like they matter now, but trust me, eventually they will matter. So keep an eye on your high-flying stocks, and if they start to really break down and we go into a bear market, you don't want to ride these things all the way down because this could happen. This is a lot of stocks made this exact pattern. Most of the stocks kind of disappeared, so you don't see very many of them anymore. Real Networks was definitely one that was a high flyer that crashed. Another one was Extreme Networks. I remember Extreme Networks as well. And Extreme Networks popped up on my scanner a couple of weeks ago, so I went down memory lanes when I saw that pop up. But this one was a huge mover in the late 90s and, of course, into the internet bubble. It did a split right here, but it might have had a reverse split as well. But this thing was a super high flyer, and if we walk forward on Extreme Networks, we can see that it had basically the same pattern. Just went down to next to nothing forever. And if we get to the current chart on it, we can see that it's actually going on a pretty nice run, but it was under $2, during the pandemic low. So this thing was, well over $100 back in the internet bubble. And if somebody was still holding this, I mean, they are still waiting to recoup their money. But Extreme Networks, as of right now, is making a pretty decent pattern, reversing off that 50-period simple moving average, and looks like it is moving higher. But that is what could happen on some of these bubble stocks, so make sure you keep an eye on them. All right, well, I'm going to get to a question now. This was from my friend Thomas. He was asking about SOS Limited, and I don't remember if you said you own this or you just wanted my opinion on the chart. I don't think the chart is looking very good at the moment. It looks like it could be ready to roll over. It's definitely got some compression going on right here, but if I had to guess, I would say probably the next move is going to be down. So if you are holding this one, I would be a little bit worried if you were thinking about buying it. I would probably kind of wait because, let me look at some of the other Bitcoin-related stocks. Let's go with Riot Blockchain first. And you can see Riot Blockchain had a pretty good bounce. Almost came down to the 50-period simple moving average, but the last several days have been moving up quite strongly with the NASDAQ. So that's definitely what you want to see if you are an owner of that stock. Let's check out Mara. I believe Mara is also in that space as well. They had a nice move off of the 50-period simple moving average, and that's what you want to see for a stock that is hopefully going to be getting stronger and busting through a new high. Another one out there is BT. Some guys in the Patreon, I believe, are trading this one. This one, of course, is reversing off of the 50-period simple moving average that it hit yesterday, which, of course, is very common. You usually get a reversal for at least a day or two once it hits that moving average. So, but BT has had a strong move up off the bottom. So, let's go back to SOS real quick. Almost looking like they're going to have to send out an SOS for this one because if the market does roll over, obviously SOS is the weakest of this group, so I would think that they are going to fall the hardest if the market does roll over because SOS just not looking very strong at the moment. Let's go intraday on this one real quick. Go to the 15-minute chart, back it out just a little bit, and we can definitely get a better look at the compression that is going on right here. We got the higher lows happening, but we also have the lower highs happening as well. So, I mean, every time this stock bounces up, it gets hit hard by selling, and the sellers are jumping back in to sell this stock even faster when the stock bounces up. They're not even waiting for it to move up any higher before they're selling into these rallies. So we definitely got some compression going on. If you are looking to trade a stock, this is a pretty nice tradable pattern. I used to trade these back in the day. Don't trade them very much anymore, but I used to put buy limits above these trend lines and sell limits below them. And because usually when a stock is compressing like this, you'll get a big break one way or the other. You usually don't know which way that's going to happen. So that's why I would put an order on each side of it. So if it did explode higher, it would catch my order early on in that big move up or in the sell-off. I would be able to get short some shares before it rolled over. I'm not super comfortable with going short anymore after seeing what happened to some of the people who got short, AMC and GME and those type of deals, because I definitely don't want to incur one of those losses. But if you're looking for a trade, I think SOS is a pretty tradable stock right now. If you're looking to buy it, Thomas, I would wait for it to break that trend line. And if you're currently in it, if it broke that trend line to the downside and started to roll over, I would probably cut my losses and move on to the next opportunity. Okay, everybody, that is all I have for this video, so I'm going to end it right there. But if you have any questions or comments about any of these stocks, please leave them down there in the comment section. I will get back to you as soon as I can. Please like the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching my video all the way to the end, and until next time, take care, everybody.